Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company this Monday morning, 5th day of August. Thanks for joining us. We're going to reward you with a ton of news, information, entertainment, some smiles, maybe, minor outrages along the way for the next 4 hours. Coming up at 6:05, well, we had a pageant this weekend, a beauty pageant, so we got to check in with WMAL superfan Sylvie Rivera. She's a pageant fanatic and expert, for that matter, so we'll speak with her about it. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Virginia State Senator John McGuire. He is now your Republican nominee officially. He's won that recount against Bob Good. 8:05, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker. And then at 8:35, Matt Bonesteel. I do like that name for a sports reporter. If you're going to be a sports reporter, get a name like Matt Bonesteel. If you don't get one, just buy one, acquire it. Just get the URL. Anyway, he's following those Olympics for us, and we're going to talk to him. That's all coming up. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Your weekend was nice and restful.
Nice and relaxing.
You're recharged. You're ready to go. You're loaded for bear.
I am. I'm all set.
Good for you.
You too?
Not so much. No, I'm good. We had a weekend up in the Berkshires.
Oh, beautiful.
Western Massachusetts. Beautiful part of the country, right there on the border of New York and Vermont, and the trees and the Green Mountains and the
gorgeous.
Yeah, good stuff. Good produce there. Good livestock.
Yeah.
Everyone has like really good steak and pork on their table, which I appreciate. Yeah, you could appreciate a place that has good steak and pork.
Yeah. There you go.
As long as we're allowed to eat it. It was very nice. Williamstown Theater Festival, where my daughter is working all summer long.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. And I had to spend my time. We drove. It was a nice drive, actually.
Nice.
Except for the rain.
And they have chargers up there?
Yes, there are car chargers all along the way. Even without Pete Buttigieg's efforts. We figured it out.
Good.
I'll say, though, it was very hard to keep from being distracted while driving and following the drama of the second gentleman.
Oh, wow. I know.
And all of the revelations about his past life before Kamala, BK, as we like to call it on the street. So I want to start with an apology and a correction.
Better.
I need to correct the record. If you guys haven't been following the story of Doug Emhoff, well, we won't forget his name now. You know, I used to make passing sort of jokes, and I do double entendres.
Yes.
Not even entendres, but just sort of I suggest things.
Yes.
And if you are tuned into what I'm suggesting, it's funny. Yes. And if you're not, it doesn't even affect you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And at the same time joking about the fact that this guy has just been such a complete non-entity that you can't even remember his name.
Right.
And anytime he came up in the news, or if Kamala Harris, the vice president, would come up in the news and then we would mention her husband, we would jokingly say, what is his name again?
And okay, you might have been joking. I actually did have trouble.
For a while, I had no idea what his first name was.
Right.
It was Doug. It's Doug. His first name is Doug, a manly name like Doug. I used to jokingly throw out names that have often been associated with a more effeminate or gay man, like Lance.
Right.
Or Bruce. Right. Or why is that funny? So I would jokingly suggest, because of the way he presents himself and carries himself.
He's a little effeminate. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not, and he tended to really get excited when Queer Eye for the Gay guys stopped by the vice president's mansion. That's him. Like, he was like, step aside, Kamala. These are my heroes kind of thing, right? But but again, this is just it's a stupid, cheap punchline I was making.
Sure.
So I need to apologize about all of that because Doug likes the ladies. Clearly, Doug can't keep his hands.
He likes them up to a point, and then he
discards them
along
when he's done using them as the vessel for his sexual encounter.
Yes.
Apparently.
Yes.
Because the news is now out, and he has confirmed it and admitted to it after a British tabloid ran with the story. Although I'm told Laura Loomer was the first with this. So, broken clock syndrome.
Oh, dear.
Laura Loomer gets some of them right sometimes, and she had this one. The Daily Mail had an expose over the weekend about Doug Emhoff.
God. God, you're going to do that from now on.
Yeah, can't keep it in the pants, man. He was all over his nanny.
Ugh.
And then what they're calling...
it's such a boring story.
I know.
Like, he's not even interesting.
Babysitter porn is very popular out there.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh.
So she's taking care of his children. So he's a power couple, right? He's a lawyer in L.A. His wife, I think, was she a lawyer as well, but she had her career as well.
Right.
So of course they get a nanny to take care of the kids they're both
like 18,
and they're both too busy with their careers to actually be, on top of raising their children, let alone on top of them.
Yeah.
And so they hire the nanny to come in. And of course, if you're a nanny, you're doing that because, well, you don't have a huge degree. You don't have the same kind of career
usually
that the
you're
Emhoffs.
young. Sometimes you're in college.
Young woman, generally a woman, and you're just like, oh, I can babysit and make money and live here, and that'll be great. Now, it's funny. They're saying he had an affair with her. Luckily for all the listeners of O'Connor and Company, I have been very well trained in the feminist reorientation of our language, and I now understand the power dynamic involved in this relationship. You see, it's impossible for a power lawyer like Doug Emhoff, a man many years this nanny senior, to have an affair with this girl who is his employee.
That's right.
This is not an affair, and these newspapers need to correct the record. And Mr. Emhoff, Doug, he needs to
apologize for the sexual harassment that he put this woman
exploitation
through.
of this woman, his employee, who he sexually assaulted.
That's right.
Really, because she can't really give consent.
Well, and it goes further than that. He didn't just he impregnated
her. And then and paid her hush money.
Yes. Oh, yes.
He paid her hush money to keep this quiet. There was an NDA.
Interesting.
In exchange for cash payments.
Wow.
So Doug Emhoff,
that's suddenly going to be okay,
had to pay hush money to the woman that he sexually harassed and really assaulted. I mean, that's how we define sexual assault now.
Since the Me Too movement.
That's right. This is a power dynamic that cannot be overcome. So she got pregnant, but now the disposition of the baby is somewhat unclear. All we're hearing, and I don't know if this is a euphemism, she did not keep the baby. Does that mean, and again, I'm sorry, it's the left who's created these new dynamics of our language. When you say she did not keep the baby, does that mean that she put the baby up for adoption after carrying the baby to full term and giving birth to the baby? And does that mean that there's some child out there, an illegitimate child adopted by someone else who may claim that
very
they're
Biden-esque,
it's like Navy Biden, exactly.
Yes,
that they will claim that they are actually the child of the first man of the United States? Or does it mean that she had an abortion? Which, of course, I think would make this thing much more virtuous in the left's mind.
Oh, yes.
There's nothing to worry about. They killed the baby.
Yep.
Because it was inconvenient. But this is what we've learned about Doug Emhoff over the weekend. And it lasted about 12 hours in the news cycle, and now nobody really cares.
Yeah, and, one thing that's really interesting, we have a clip of him talking about.
Yeah, we're going to hear that in a minute. And the other thing that's very interesting and some other, but again, I wanted to, we correct the record here, and I'm sorry for even implying or suggesting in some way, because clearly Doug can't keep his hands off women if they're subordinate to him and working in his employment.
Your Gen X is showing. You can still.
Oh, is this a fluid situation?
Could be. I'm not giving up.
So should I start calling him Rue Doug? It's 5:15, WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. So let me just get this straight. Doug Emhoff is married, has 2 kids, cheats on his wife with the nanny, the babysitter, gets her pregnant. The baby is taken care of.
We don't know what that means.
The nanny is paid hush money to cover the thing up. Eventually, they get divorced, right?
Not him and the nanny, him and his wife.
He and his wife get divorced, right. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, as a young, up-and-coming lawyer in San Francisco, has an affair with a married man that everybody knows about and is 31 years older than her. It is an open secret, as they always say in California, that Willie Brown, the married man, 31 years, Kamala Harris's senior, is giving her jobs and positions that pay her very good money and give her much power and give her a, let's just say, leg up in her career to get her, power and influence that eventually leads to her being elected as the district attorney of San Francisco, and there's no looking back. And then somehow these two star-crossed lovers find each other. Doug and Kamala do.
Nice people.
These really is
people.
A Norman Rockwell painting, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
And you'll forgive me for, my original sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of jabs at Doug when I used to jokingly say, what is his name again? Bruce Lance? Because when last we checked with Doug, he was on with Jonathan Capehart, who is an openly gay reporter and columnist on MSNBC and Washington Post. And he was telling us this.
Let's talk about masculinity for a moment. Has being second gentleman changed your own view of perceived gender roles or what it means to be a man?
This is something I've thought about a lot and something I've spoken about a lot. There's too much of toxicity. It's masculine toxicity out there, and we've kind of confused what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine, where you've got this trope out there that you've got to be tough and angry and lash out to be strong. It's just the opposite. Strength is how you show your love for people. Strength is how you are for people and how you have their back and how you stick up for other people.
So He wanted to show his strength to the barely over 18-year-old nanny of his children by having her back.
Yeah. And did you have your wife's back?
He showed her his love for her.
Or how about your wife?
Yeah.
You destroyed your marriage by having sex with this nanny and pregnant. And yeah, you're right. Then this nanny gets pregnant. This young woman gets pregnant, and you pay her to shut up and get rid of it. Way to go, Doug.
Well,
he really is.
And then
expert.
he lectures us about how to be a man, how to be a real man.
He really is an expert in toxic masculinity.
He fits right in with these people.
Woke men really are the worst. Men who claim to be feminists, they do this exact thing. They use women. This is why Pete Buttigieg the other day saying men need abortion needs to be available so people can be truly free. I mean, this is men who want to be truly free of these responsibilities.
Well, funny you should say that. That's sort of exactly the messaging here, isn't it? That this is why we need Kamala Harris, so she can keep abortion legal and safe, so men can have more freedom to act like her husband.
Yep.
Doug. Of course, by the way, Doug and Kamala Harris have never had any children of their own. They got their hands full, let's face it. It's a busy life they're living. Here's what's interesting. Najim Naylor is the name of the person here, the nanny. Mm-hmm. Guess what she does now?
What?
She's an executive at Audible, which is the audiobook company owned by Amazon.
Isn't that interesting?
Which is a Jeff Bezos property, of course, that owns the Washington Post. Najim Naylor taught at a private school attended by the two kids. That's how. First, she was the teacher.
Wow.
Then ended up being the nanny, and then ended up being the paramour, let's say.
Yes.
Now Najim Taylor is an executive at Audible.
Wow.
One of Naylor's neighbors outside her modest, rustic Hampton Bays home told the Post that she's a very nice lady who was pregnant when they first met. She moved in 3 years ago. She was pregnant and said the baby was from a sperm donor.
Well?
Because she...
It's one way to put it.
No, this is a different baby. This isn't.
Okay.
This has nothing to do with Doug that we know of. Mm. Naylor also has another small child, she said, but she has not seen any teenage children, which is the age that the child would be now, which would no teenage children around the property. A woman who answered the door at the home of one of Naylor's relatives declined to answer questions Saturday, telling the New York Post, "I'm not the person you should be talking to." Stacy Brooks, a friend of Naylor's who gave birth to twin boys around the same time Naylor was allegedly expecting, didn't deny the claims. Instead, she told the Daily Mail she could not discuss the matter without Naylor's permission. So, I mean, does any of this affect the election?
Well, I mean, it certainly takes away. I mean, it won't stop them, but this whole NDA hush money kind of takes the sting out of that. They're not going to
maybe, although that's not a big part of the story, is it? You don't hear people talking about. I mean, when I mentioned it this morning, you were like, "Oh, is that right?" Because you would think that would be a big part of this.
Well, of course, the media's not going to cover that. No, of course.
Right. Well, I guess the difference is. This wasn't a porn star, you see. It's okay when you pay hush money to the babysitter.
Or the intern.
Right, exactly. Or all of those staffers on Capitol Hill.
Promising young woman. Yes.
Yeah. I would love to know the circumstances of her employment, though, because that's quite a career trajectory, isn't it?
Yeah.
Teacher at a private school, to a nanny, to a powerful and politically connected lawyer, to now an executive at Audible with a modest home in the Hamptons.
She learned from Kamala.
I wonder why she's not married, though. She's got 2 children now from sperm donors, allegedly, or at least we know for one of them is from a sperm donor. But no, it's almost like at a very young age, she had such warped and inappropriate, let's say, relationships with men that it may have actually changed her outlook on marriage. Maybe this has sort of damaged her with regard to her understanding of the sanctity of marriage and relationships that men and women can have in a healthy manner.
Yes.
It's almost like Doug ruined her.
It's almost something a toxic male would do.
Yeah. Please tell us more about toxic. Well, we'll have to get to it later. You saw the woman at the Trump rally talking about Kamala Harris's relationship with Willie Brown and all that stuff, because and again, we'll get to that as well. Because the reason that we're bringing it up is they thought, you're better than that, Larry and Julie. No, we're not at all, absolutely not. But secondly, the personal lives of candidates apparently are a big topic of conversation.
That's right.
That's what we're supposed to be obsessed with this stuff.
That's right.
That's right. That's what we've learned from how they covered Donald Trump.
Yep.
And so, I mean, goose, gander, meet the sauce, pot, kettle, all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Just saying.
All right. It is
now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
5:36. It's O'Connor and Company, August the 5th, this Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in. Busy morning coming up at 6:05. Sylvia Rivera, WMAL super fan, who is also a beauty pageant expert. She always has a great take on those pageants. And last night we had Miss USA. No, was it Miss USA? Yeah, Miss USA. The dude who's Miss Maryland did not win. Why is that funny? This is the world we're living in.
No, I know.
The dude who is Miss Maryland as opposed to the dude who punches women in the face at the Olympics.
Yes.
We've got all those stories this morning. Plus at 7:05, Joe Geneva will be here at 7:35. Virginia State Senator John McGuire, now really officially, your Republican nominee. He won that recount against Bob Good. 8:05, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker, and at 8:35, Matt Bonesteel from the Post about the Olympics. I'm Larry O'Connor.
We should have him on every day.
I think Doug Emhoff's going to change his name to Doug Bonesteel. Just to clear up any misconceptions that we have presented. All right, little walk down memory lane here. I want to set this up for you. You remember in April of this year, back in the good old days, Donald Trump was in Atlanta for a court appearance because the corrupt district attorney there, who was having an affair with the
Fannie.
Yeah, Fannie Willis, right? Mm-hmm. Had an affair with the man that she selected to be the special prosecutor in the fraudulent, corrupt RICO case against Donald Trump and his advisors.
Right.
And thus funneling hundreds of thousands of tax dollars to her boyfriend so they could go on trips to Costa Rica.
Yeah, it was
you remember that.
Yeah, her vacation fund.
So he was in Atlanta for some court proceeding, of course, and during a break or recess or at the end of the day, he went to a Chick-fil-A and bought everybody sandwiches. Remember this moment?
No.
Yeah, he bought and it was like all this press was there and everything, and while he was there milling about, a black woman emerged from the crowd and shouted him. Here, listen, you'll remember this.
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you.
We support you, man.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Remember that? And he gave this black
Yes, of
woman a
course.
hug, and she said, I don't care what the media says. We
Right.
support you, Mr. Trump, right? That woman's name is Michaela Montgomery. And President Trump, following Kamala's, big appearance and rally last week in Atlanta, the Trump team said, okay, we're going to come to Atlanta. And you'll remember that Meg the Stallion was up there giving a free concert for Kamala.
That didn't even help.
With the twerking and
Yes,
with the,
yeah.
real
family friendly
women and the hose and all
Right.
that stuff, right? So the Trump team decided, yeah, okay, we're going to have, a superstar black woman come up too. But instead of twerking, we're going to ask that woman, Michaela Montgomery, to come up and
Love it.
and give some remarks. And I say her name again, Michaela Montgomery. She has an organization called Conserve the Culture. And I want you, just bookmark that name, Michaela Montgomery, because this woman is going places.
She grabbed me. She gave me a kiss. I said, I think I'm never going back home to the First Lady. Darling.
You were supposed to keep that quiet.
See, you want to say something else?
Man, I thought I was done. But I do want to add on to some of the remarks that were made by others, and we do need to do our best to get the message out there. The fight is nothing if all we do is talk about it amongst ourselves. So with that being said, since you said you'd help me, shameless plug, if y'all need anybody to knock doors, make phone calls, wave signs, get people out to the polls, call me at Conserve the Culture. Because not only do I mobilize the HBCU students so that they may get this message, but I'm the best person when it comes to black engagement in the black community. And nobody needs this message more than my folks. So do y'all care for real? Are y'all with us for real? ConserveTheCulture.com for any and all inquiries. Y'all can follow me at Miss Kayla, baby. I'm going to give it back to Big T.
Big T. I love Big T. But she wasn't done. There was more.
We need to vote based on facts and not feelings. See, under Harris and Biden, the average Georgia household is losing $1,060 per month, and inflation is at 21.4%. And due to the war on energy, average gas prices have reached record highs for the state. We also did a poll, and 80% of us black Americans are not happy with the current state of the economy, so I'm going to need 80% of y'all to vote accordingly in November.
I mean,
I love her energy.
who would you rather have at a political event to get the crowd going for your
Says a lot.
purposes? This or Meg the Stallion, who
Yep.
likes to talk about the moisture levels of body parts
Oh, God.
and twerking to rile up the crowd? I mean,
It is reminding Kamala of her Montel Williams days. But,
I suppose that's true.
Now, why don't we jump right into it? See, as a young single mother, I can tell y'all that rent is too damn high. I can tell you that as a young black voter, groceries are too damn high.
Right. Sorry,
Amen.
you wanted to say.
Amen.
Yeah,
No, I
she's
think her
fantastic.
energy is excellent. And she's telling the truth and sticking to facts and talking about data and numbers. And again, not emotion, but facts. That is important to voters these days.
There's other things that are important to voters, especially black voters who care about the stability of homes and families and marriages and having fathers in the home and things like, because that is again, her organization is called Conserve the Culture. And I think anyone who looks at circumstances of black Americans and what's happening in those, if you're really worried about crime, if you're really worried about drug use, if you're really worried about jobs and education, you've got to look at the family. And she addressed those issues, too, in her own very unique way.
Community is to dismantle the black family. So aside from her record as a prosecutor, why don't we ask Mrs. Willie Brown if Kamala Harris cares about black families?
Girl. Yeah, she's fire. You want more of Michaela Montgomery?
Yes.
I think we have more, a little bit more of this moment at the Atlanta rally for Donald Trump, Michaela Montgomery, and some of her very personal
I'll just
questions
say,
about Kamala Harris.
It probably does take someone like Michaela to get Trump to stand aside and let someone else talk.
Oh, yeah.
Because he loves to talk.
It's so funny to me. It's funny you should say that, because I was like, oh, he'll never, have this person in the cabinet or never have that person because he doesn't like to be upstaged. Actually, he's fine being upstaged.
Fine.
Bring the fire. Do it right.
Can
and
we
deliver.
Have more of Michaela, less Omarosa in the next administration. Okay.
544.
WMAL, making sense of social media because big tech can't be trusted. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Michaela Montgomery introducing Donald Trump, or at least part of the Donald Trump Atlanta rally. And I cannot emphasize enough the distinction here between, the rapping, twerking Meg Thee Stallion at the event for Kamala Harris, where she then came out and gave 20 minutes of scripted teleprompter remarks really made for television cameras.
Authentic, not this made-up stuff that Kamala does.
Yeah, well, I was referring to what Kamala did. Kamala
Yes.
came out after the twerking, did 20 minutes, scripted teleprompter. Really, it was meant for the cameras in the arena to capture footage, B-roll for her ads, to make it look like she's like this magnificent orator. Then she got off the stage, and everyone, here we have Michaela Montgomery talking, yes, about issues in the economy, as you heard, but also she addressed head on some of the statements that Donald Trump made last week at the National Association of Black Journalists, a place where Kamala Harris never deigned to even show up, by the way. She won't talk to any journalist, let alone black journalists, where Donald Trump basically laid the groundwork. And I want to be clear here, because everyone on our side, for some reason, of course. When will conservative analysts ever figure this out? That they're like, that's it, it's over, he ruined it. It's like,
I know. God.
Guys, hang out and
calm
watch
down.
Trump be Trump for a minute.
Yeah.
Because Kamala Harris is inauthentic. Kamala Harris, you don't know what she believes. You don't know what she stands for. Everything that she said she wanted to do as president running in 2020, her staff have now said, oh, yeah, she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to do that. So they've decided 4 years later that the path of least resistance is to say that everything she stood for 4 years ago is in the toilet now, right? That they think is the smart strategy, which tells you something. No one can tell you who this woman is. And if Donald Trump went up on a podium, I steal this from our friend David Marcus, who wrote about it this weekend on Fox News. If he went up on a podium and said, that Kamala Harris is inauthentic and we don't know what she really stands for, no one would pay attention. But when he sits there and says, what, suddenly she's black? She didn't call herself black before. She used to call herself Indian American. And suddenly everyone's hair is on fire because we're talking about how inauthentic she is. And specifically, how she has identified as black only when it was convenient for her.
That's right.
And Michaela Montgomery, a black woman in Atlanta, speaking to a black audience in Atlanta, hammered home that point.
A few days ago, President Trump said he didn't know Vice President Harris was a black woman. I'm trying to figure out what all the outrage is about, because she's only black when it's time to get elected. Did I lie? The same black people who are mad at Trump for being confused about her race, ethnicity, nationality, whatever, are seemingly forgetting that while you're touting her as a savior for black people, she identifies as an Asian woman. She chose her side and it wasn't ours. When asked if she would ever do anything specifically for black people, she said no. Whereas Trump gave us the Platinum Plan, which specifically uplifted the black community by increasing capital by almost $500 billion, creating 500,000 new black businesses, and would give black churches the ability to fight for federal resources for their communities.
We need Michaela Montgomery on the stage with Donald Trump as much as possible.
Well, and how smart was he to recognize this young woman at this Chick-fil-A where she pulled him aside? I feel like it's one of those things like a model search where, they pluck a beautiful person from, a drive-through job. She's really remarkable. I also want to say, because you can't see this, the visual, she's talking extemporaneously. She's not on script. She is just talking so smoothly, so eloquently about these issues. That's a talent.
It is. And again, it's a talent to not only tout what the candidate has done, but then at the same time, in a very pointed way, criticize the candidate's opponent.
All
The
will be.
left wants you to get in your feelings about things that have been said, but I want you guys to pay attention to what has been done. They don't want to talk policy. They just want to use propaganda to steal your vote. The left is trying to tout this woman as a savior for the black community, but all she's done is hurt the black community since she came into the game. See, the first step in destroying the black community is to dismantle the black family. So aside from her record as a prosecutor, why don't we ask Mrs. Willie Brown if Kamala Harris cares about black families?
I think that says it all. And by the way, this is a smart thing the politicians do. Donald Trump doesn't need to say it. You let other people say it for you and stay above the fray.
Very true.
You know,
Yep.
It's 5:54.